Welcome. Today I want to talk to you about creativity, depression, and blissfulness. So, do we need to suffer in order to produce great things? Well, no. In fact, here I would even argue the opposite. Deep suffering, for instance, in the form of depression, is ultimately counterproductive. Depression freezes creativity. It freezes the body and it freezes the mind. You can think of great writers and great artists, Nietzsche, Wittgenstein, Max Weber, all had very long period of depression. And what happened during that period? Well, nothing. Nothing happened. They didn't produce anything. But interestingly, after that period, after that often long period of inactivity, creativity seems to have blossomed for them. What I would argue here is that it's not depression that causes the rejuvenation of creativity, but that depression often pushes us to rethink what is going on in our lives. And episodes of depression, questions our life, question the routines we have in our life. Too often we're stuck in certain routine and we have entered a certain path and we just don't see how we can possibly escape. And stopping for a while, rethinking what we want to do, taking new chances, new roads. I think this is really the tinder of creativity. So we don't need depression to do this, in fact, even though depression forces us to do this. Depression is a horrific cancer of the mind, and we cannot let it spread. We need to contain it and we need to defeat it in order to be creative. This is where the idea of blissfulness comes in. Blissfulness comes from one of my favorite books. It's really a crazy book called The Hedonistic Imperative by David Pearce. And one day I'll make a whole video on that book because it's an insane book, but in a good way. And blissfulness is this idea of supreme state of contentment, of non-reactivity, but also of accurate thinking. What is interesting is that non-reactivity does not mean that no emotion exists. It's not a state of vegetation. On the contrary, all the emotion exists at their full power, but they do not overwhelm us, or they do not control us. We are not necessarily in control of them either, but we are just fine observer of them. We are like ethnographer of human emotions, and we can experience them fully without falling for them. It's a state of full life compared to the depressive state, which is a state of full death. However, it's true that certain type of suffering are conducive to creativity, typically romantic suffering. Having a heart broken. Suffering in certain contexts can be a very powerful emotion for creativity. And here is the difference. Suffering and depression, this is not a state of creativity. This is a horrific state, which often leads to, tragic outcomes. But suffering and blissfulness, I think this is the ultimate state of creativity. Emotions are high, emotions are intense, but at the same time, we are in an active state where we can harvest and channel these emotions and create great things. And I think this is actually the state where a lot of the great work of humanity have been created. So all of this to say that if you're depressed, do not accept it thinking that great things will come out of it. Emotions are very important in life. Negative emotions are also very important, but not in the state of depression. Rather in the state of blissfulness, or the state that we call mindfulness. And this is where meditation comes in. And meditation, is just training the mind in order to both experience life fully, experience emotion fully, but at the same time not getting overwhelmed by these emotions. It's basically training the mind to be an observer of emotion. And isn't that what basically artists do? So if you have a broken heart, embrace the emotion, meditate and create. Have a blissful day.